This program is the third and final in a three-part series on Model 202, the new C-Class Mercedes-Benz. The first two programs are Model 202 Engineering Overview and Model 202 Technical Introduction. You should view these two programs first and in the sequence noted, as much of the material covered in this program assumes a familiarity with the information included in the other two. The objective of this program is to give you a brief overview of some of the more unique disassembly jobs on Model 202. It must be emphasized that the operations are not shown in detail, and you should refer to the service microfiche for a complete step-by-step description of each job. The program will be divided into major areas or components of the vehicle and titled accordingly for quick reference in the future. The seat switch on Model 202 can be removed as an assembly without removing the door panel. There are 7 securing clips which can be replaced separately if necessary. The door handle backing plate is removed, and the screw securing the top of the panel and grab handle is removed. The latch trim plate is removed, and the door lock button unscrewed. This hidden screw under the armrest is removed. The location of this hidden screw is probably the single most important point to be aware of. The 9 plastic push pins are popped out, and the 4 top clips unhooked. The latch cable is removed from the holding slot and unhooked from the handle. On the back of the panel, you will find that the push pins are easily replaced, and that the wood trim is secured on the back side with 5 one-way clips, and therefore cannot be removed from the outside. The procedure for removing the rear door interior panel is very similar to the front door, with the hidden screw accessible through an opening in the bottom of the handle. The mirror housing is removed by pushing the mirror housing forward, inserting a screwdriver between the lock plate and tab, and unlatching the housing lock plate. The mirror glass is held in place with a lock wire. Removing the entire mirror assembly is done by removing 3 screws, always starting with this lower rear screw. The door protective moldings are secured with a screw on one end. After the screw is removed, the molding is removed by sliding it in the direction of the screw mounting point. The short moldings on the fenders are attached with expansion snaps. To remove the door handle, the rubber molding is pulled back and the 4mm Allen screw removed. Use caution. The screw is captured in the handle mounting bracket by a clip, which, if pushed out of place, will allow the screw to drop into the door. The procedure we'll review first relates only to replacement of a sliding roof motor. A complete sliding roof disassembly will be covered afterwards. The first step is to remove the dome lamp lenses. Then, if it's an early production vehicle, remove the 2 screws securing the dome lamp housing. Or, if it's a later vehicle, using clips to secure the housing, remove the mirror and unfasten the housing using a wedge. Remove the 3 mounting screws for the motor and pull the motor straight out. A replacement motor is delivered without the limit switch assembly. There is a procedure that should be followed to install the limit switch assembly on a new motor. Install the star wheel so that the timing mark pin fits through any slot in the wheel. Then install the timing cam so that the timing mark pin is visible through the hole in the cam. It may be necessary to turn the motor slightly using the sunroof emergency closing wrench. The cam is now positioned properly for installation of the limit switch assembly. The following procedure will cover roof panel and drive cable removal and assumes that the sliding roof motor is operating. In the interest of saving time, the procedure will be shown on one side only and is of course identical for the other side. The first step is to open the sliding roof approximately 2/3. Then, unfasten the expansion snaps and pull the interior headliner panel out. Close the roof and remove the nuts that attach the steel roof panel to the carrier bracket. A word to the wise: do not remove the roof panel by removing the bracket screws here, as these are adjustment points and complete readjustment of the roof panel will be required if they are disturbed. Now the leak water tray can be disconnected and removed. Run the carrier fully back and remove the stainless slide rails. Now the motor should be pulled down to disengage the drive cables. With the motor disengaged, it should be run until it shuts off in the roof fully closed position for installation on reassembly. This allows the carrier arms to be moved fully forward by hand, and then the carrier bracket can be rotated to disconnect it from the drive cable. Remove the screw on the drive cable access flap and lift the flap. The end of the drive cable is now accessible, and it can be removed by pulling it to the rear. The drive cables are marked L and R to identify the left and right cables. Reassembly of the sliding roof is vice versa, with a few important additions. The carriers must be placed in the roof fully closed position prior to installation of the motor, which must also be in that mode. Aligning the paint mark on the carrier with the scribe mark on the stainless rail places the carrier in the fully closed position. Also, be sure that the sliding shoes that carry the headliner panel are parallel with the rails before running the roof back and reinstalling the headliner panel. Moving to the interior of the vehicle, we'll cover disassembly beginning with the center console wood trim. Open the rear compartment door and lift the wood trim up from the rear. Remove the two screws securing the forward storage tray and lift out. To continue with the removal of the lower console, remove these two screws at the left and right front at the lower and upper console separation point. Remove the two screws behind the shift housing. And finally, remove the two screws at the bottom of the storage compartment. And lift the lower console up and out toward the rear. We'll begin disassembly in the upper console area, starting with removal of the radio, which is done with the familiar keys. The two screws under the upper wood trim secure the cassette holder. And two screws under the climate control push-button assembly secure the upper wood trim. The climate control push-button assembly can be removed by unscrewing the two screws at the top corner. The connectors are removed by depressing the center lock tab and tilting the connector to unplug it. Be sure to depress the center lock tab fully to avoid damage. The connectors are identical, so they are identified by a red band for the right and a white band for the left. To continue with the disassembly in the center console area, the ashtray housing is removed by removing the lower console trim and storage tray, as seen previously. The two screws anchoring the lower center console at the front seam also serve to secure the ashtray housing. The crash sensor for the SRS is mounted on the tunnel behind the console, as with previous models. Moving to the left side of the instrument panel, The ignition tumbler removal procedure is new on Model 202. A special tool is required. The ignition surround is removed. The key is turned to position 1. The tool is inserted, pushed in, and turned 90 degrees counterclockwise. When pulling the tumbler out, be sure that the key remains in place. Installation is done in the reverse sequence, also using the tool. To demonstrate how the new tumbler lock mechanism operates, we'll show the assembly being inserted without the collar. The white locking tab is positioned at 5 o'clock, and the tumbler is inserted into the lock housing. Then, when the key is turned from position 1 to the off position, the nylon locking collar engages and traps the tumbler assembly. To provide the necessary clearance, removing the instrument cluster on a vehicle without an adjustable steering wheel requires removal of the airbag and steering wheel. Since a clock spring is used instead of slip rings, the electrical wires must be unplugged and fed through the center opening. The cluster pulling hooks are used, as with previous models. In this program, only a few of the many disassembly procedures have been covered, and due to time constraints, they were shown in an abbreviated form. So in conclusion, it must again be emphasized that you should refer to the service microfiche for a detailed description of these operations, as well as the many operations that time did not permit us to include.